everyone, it's Carol here at Oak House Journals, and I'm going to do guest check number 29 in the 50 stack challenge today. If the challenge is new to you, all the information will be in the description box below the video, along with all the products that I will be using today. So the prompt for guest check number 29 is stamp, and as you can see, I've got in front of me here a couple of the backgrounds that I created for guest check number 27, I believe it was. So I'm going to use a portion of this for my background today, and I'm going to use the smaller one simply because I have less of that left over and I can use the whole of this A4 sheet for another project. And as you can see, I've lifted out one of the Tim Holtz layering stencils, and this one is called Crackled, and I'm going to be using that together with a baby wipe. I've lifted out this stamp here, and this one is also called Crackled. I'm not sure who it's by. There you go, you can see it better there. I'm not sure who it's by. I've had it for a while in amongst my stash, but I thought I would use that to again create some more interest on my background. And I've also got this stamp set, so I thought I would be using one of these gentlemen today, and I'm particularly leaning towards this gentleman simply because there is more opportunity for me to use colour when I actually stamp this gentleman. His head is a little bit wacky for me. I think I would have preferred this gentleman here, but I haven't got enough white space on this particular stamp or this one. I mean, his trousers are almost black there. So I think this is the gentleman I'm going to be using as my focal point. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my piece of paper here to the size of my guest check. There we go, so that's my background cut to size and actually glued onto my guest check. And I'm just going to write on the back, whilst I think about it, that this is number 29 and it is stamp as the prompt, so I don't forget. I'm going to pop these pieces to one side, bring out my layering stencil, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my stencil on top of my background. I've got a wet wipe here, and this is slightly damp. You could spray over this with water if you wanted to, but I don't want a very marked effect, but I do want some sort of effect. And I'm just going to anchor my stencil down, and then I'm just going to very gently rub away here and just lift off some of the paint. I'm just going to move my hand down a little bit and carry on working my way down the stencil. And I'm only being very, very light with my touch here, but I already can see it's beginning to work. Let me lift it up. Can you see I'm getting a mottled type of effect on the guest check? So again, I'm just going to move my fingers and carry on. So let me lift that up and you can have a look and see what it looks like now. So there we go. If I lift that up to the camera, you can see it's just given me a very delicate mottled effect. And if I just bring in the original piece that I cut it from, you can see the difference there. So I'm just going to give this a blast now with my heat gun so that I can go in and do some stamping on top. I'm going to bring in my crazed stamp. This is a silicone stamp. It's got a backing piece of acetate on the back. I'm not going to put this onto a block. I'm just going to use it as it is because I'm just going to touch over the background with this. I've lifted out some Distress Oxide bundle sage and also some antique linen because I just want a very subtle effect on here. So first off, I'm going to go in with the bundled sage, and I'm just, as I say, just very gently going to touch here and there on my piece. Just to pick up the odd piece of the pattern. So there we go, that's what that looks like, just very soft. And now I thought I would go in with the antique linen again, just very lightly touch over the background. So that's all I'm going to do for my background. I might go in with some other pieces, like some book page, maybe at the bottom, to anchor my figure down with. And I'm also thinking I might want to go in with a die cut, maybe up in this corner, and have my image down the side here. But we'll see as I get playing. I'm going to bring in my glue book. I've got some Distress Oxide frayed burlap here and a blending brush, and I'm going to just very carefully try and just do a very, very gentle edge around my piece. And there we go. I'm happy with that, everybody. I might go in and darken that up maybe a little bit later on if I feel the need to, but as it stands at the moment, I'm happy with how that looks. For my stamping, I've lifted out this gentleman and this gentleman, and I am using a block for stamping these images. What I thought I would try and do is put this gentleman here with the top hat onto the body of this gentleman. I don't have any brown embossing powder, and I'd like to heat emboss my images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Versamark Vintage Photo Distress Ink, and I've got some clear embossing powder here. This is some Stampin' Up Fine Detail embossing powder, and as you can see, I've only got a little bit of that left. So I've got various scraps of paper here to stamp on, and I'm going to start with this gentleman first as he's on the block, and I'm going to use this piece first, going in first with my Versamark. Then I'm going to go over the top of that with my Vintage Photo, and because the embossing ink is sticky, it actually pulls the ink out of the Vintage Photo Distress Ink pad. It doesn't contaminate it. And I'm just going to stamp my first image, and whilst that's sitting there, I'm just going to take the lid off my embossing powder, carefully lift this off. So there's my image stamped, and now quickly before that ink can dry, I'm going to go over it with my embossing powder. Just got enough, as you can see. Give it a little bit of a shake, take it off, and there's my image with my embossing powder over the top. Just going to lift this to one side and go in with my heat gun. I hope you can see that the heat is activating the embossing powder. There we go. And I get a brown image embossed onto my paper without having to use any brown embossing powder, which I don't have. So there we go. That's my first image embossed onto this scrap of paper, and I'm going to go ahead now and emboss a few more of these images onto these scraps. So I'll carry on and get that done. So these are all my pieces embossed now with Vintage Photo Distress Ink, and I'm just going to go in and do some fussy cutting, and hopefully I can paper piece all these pieces together to get a very snazzy looking gentleman that has a blue coat, a yellow waistcoat, brown and blue trousers, a brown hat, and this gentleman's head. So I will be back when I finish fussy cutting those out and let you have a look and see what they look like. This is what my piece is looking like now. I've glued that little strip onto there now that I've cut round the outside of my gentleman. I took away the little kind of laces or string that were holding his glasses to his head, but I can't quite bring myself to black his eyes. So I've just outlined them very gently with a very fine black pen. I will be going in with some glossy accents on his hat and on this cane. But I just wanted to see what sort of background I could create for him on here. Those scraps that were left over from me doing his hat and his trousers, I've just gone in with a die cut, and I think I like this one best. This one was a bit too heavy, I thought, from there, but I am liking this one, and I think because it's picking up the background, I think when I actually edge it with some darker ink, it will look better once it's on there. For the bottom, I have this lovely piece of paper that my lovely friend Jeff did for me, and I absolutely love it. And whilst it's sacrilege to rip it in half or tear away this edge here, I am going to use a little portion down there, just a tiny portion, to ground my gentleman. I'm going to go in with some vintage photo, and this is the Distress Oxide. I'm just going to put a little bit on here just to very carefully give a little bit of interest, and then, as I say, go around my tag here, or my guest check rather, with some more. Now, you saw me do this earlier with the blending brush, but I really think I need a bit more round the edges to frame it. I think that's going to look better. Okay, my gentleman I've already gone round, so that's that. And now I think I will start gluing him in place. So the first thing I need to do is obviously glue this in place so that I can see what it looks like, and that will give me an idea where to position my gentleman. So let's just quickly put a little bit of glue on here. And I know that this is going up in this corner, so I can get on and get that done. And actually I'm liking how that's looking on there. Really nice. Just go in with a bit more of this. There we go. Okay, now I'm thinking my gentleman, I can actually just have him so that he's touching this at the top there. This is the piece I thought I would use across the bottom, and it doesn't actually go all the way to the edge on this side, but I'm not bothered about that. That's exactly as I wanted it. And I think if I just move my gentleman across and just have him like that, so that's looking good to me, and he's kind of grounded on this piece down here. So I'm just going to go in and trim this off at the back now. And you know, I was thinking about stitching this, but actually I don't think I will. I think I like it just as it is. I'm loving that this is picking up the colours in my gentleman's trousers and up here, and that's working nicely for me. A bit more distress ink, I think. So here we go, everybody. This is my finished piece. As you can see, I've glued my gentleman down onto my background, glued down this die cut up here, and I decided that I needed something in these opposite corners. It was looking a little bit bare to me, so I've used one of these Tim Holtz labels up here, and I just inked round that with the Distress Oxide vintage photo just to kind of blend it in a little bit better. And down here I've layered up 3 little labels. One of them, chopped in half, is a Tim Holtz label, and this blue edged one with the decal edge to it was a faux postage stamp style sticker, and I was toying with the idea of stitching all the way around, but I've decided not to. I go with that too often, so I thought I'd see if I could leave it today and not do that. I have gone in and slightly coloured the gentleman's eyes. Couldn't quite bring myself to blacken them completely as if he was wearing sunglasses, but I have put a hint of grey there, and I will be going in now with my glossy accents. I'm going to use glossy accents on his cane and his hat. I will leave some photos at the end of the video so that you can have a look and see what the glossy accents looks like on the piece. I hope you like seeing this one come together. As you know, the prompt for guest check number 29 was stamping, so I did some crackle stamping on my background, and I also stamped this gentleman numerous times before I went in with the embossing powder and then paper pieced him all together. So there we go, everybody. This is my finished piece. I look forward to seeing you for prompt number 30, which is ink. Take care. Bye bye now.